I pushed a button. So I'll give you a brief minute I always give everybody a brief moment to introduce themselves and what they do. And Bill's been on a couple times, so he's used to my chaos. That's what we were just discussing. I created chaos on somebody else's live. They were foolish enough or brave enough, I should say, to invite me into their live the other day, and I immediately derailed everything. But that's my mission in life is to create chaos.
I see.
So thus far, I'm being very successful at it. So,
well, you must be picking up on some residual frequencies of my old life, because that was key.
Yeah, I behaved for so long. I just decided, you know what, I'm gonna go out in the world and stir things up and see how much chaos I can create.
I went the other way. I created all the chaos younger, and then said, I wonder what it's like to not live in that chaos as much.
Well, as it has turned out to be, we were just discussing, I don't think I could be more chaotic than what's going on out in the world right now. So
right. Yeah.
Even me at my worst, I don't think I can trump, pun intended, what's going on right now. So we'll see which way it goes. So we got some people signed on now. So my quest today is not to say So if I say I get gonged. Okay. So
is there a tip jar?
Yeah, it's like a swear jar. So if I say call it out and tell me to shut up. So anyway, this is a roundtable with beautiful Heresy. We'll have more people log in here in a minute. But if you've been here, you know how it goes. If you hadn't been here, you'll figure out real quick how it goes. It goes all over the place. So we
Simona,
we're free format. We do the first two were like a game show kind of format. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of fun. The second and third got a little bit off topic. The fourth one got really crazy. And last week we got into religion, so I'm not doing that this week. So, that's the other one. If I get into religion, gong me on that one too, because we went way off the path last week. But I've got different topics. Typically, what I do after I let y'all I'll let you introduce yourself. Go ahead, Manny. You can introduce yourself and what's yours, because I know I read yours sometime. You can give your spiel.
I don't really have a spiel for my writing. My name is Manny Wolf, and the first time I did any serious writing was at the beginning of my now ended marriage. My then girlfriend said, "You have to write your life story. This is ridiculous. You got to write this shit down." So I said, "Okay." And I struggled mightily. And I realized the reason I was struggling was because of a few key things. I had a head full of bad college professors and their advice on how to write. I had a head full of stupid business advice on how to write. And I didn't know how to be influenced by my favorite writers without mimicking them. And so I had to sort of get through all of those things, like I kept doing drafts of my memoir, and it would sound like Tom Robbins, or it would sound like Ken Kesey, or it would sound, and I'm like watching it going, this isn't me. This is not my voice. This is like, John Irving or somebody. And because I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I was a voracious reader, and all of that stuff is just in there, And so I had a really weird sequence of kind of epiphanies that allowed me to break through and write in my own voice. The first one, I decided to hell with this idea that I have to write things at a dumbed down level for public consumption. I'm going to write so that if the only person that ever discovers this book is some version of me 100 years from now, They laugh with joy at the fact that somebody was like writing with, turn of phrase and sweeping concepts and all this stuff. And so I did. So that was very helpful. Then there was the epiphany that I can't write a memoir from start to finish. It's got to be, you got to break it up, right? And I kept trying to write from birth to present. And I just run into like these invisible shackles. I couldn't get past 30 or 40 pages. So I thought about Pulp Fiction. Said, I'm going to write it like Pulp Fiction. Just slice up time. Start with the most dramatic thing. Jump back and forth. That was hugely freeing. And then the last one was also inspiration from a movie. If anybody has ever seen Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, it's a fantastic movie. I would say underrated. But the thing is Sam Rockwell's character has a nervous breakdown in a hotel room. I'm guessing what's your name again?
Bill.
Bill, I'm guessing you're nodding yes, so like you know this. And he's sitting there strung out in a hotel room that's thrashed, and he's naked, and he's just freaked out, and he's doing what only Sam Rockwell can do. And he said, I resolved to write the unflinching truth of my story. And that was what finally broke me through. It was like, I realized that I kept writing my life story in a way that was either looking for sympathy or trying to put myself up as the hero. And I was like, I got to hold myself to the exact same level as all the people I'm going to criticize. So those three things allowed me to break through. And the last thing was not to get too geeky for who I don't know who's watching this, but Kurt Vonnegut Jr. famously said that when it comes to writing, there are two kinds of people, swoopers and bashers. Everybody teaches you to be a swooper, but I'm a basher. And swoopers are the ones that vomit it out and they go back and they pick it up over and over again. And bashers are the ones that labor over every fucking letter, And so like, that is my style. So rather than trying to go on these big writing binges, I wrote 2 to 3 clean pages a night, every night. And that's how I did it. And with that, I wrote a 322 page memoir, and it went on to be an international bestseller. So it worked.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, 2 things I'd pick out of that, and this is my opinion because I grab onto things like this, and it came to me, and I always get writing material out of these lives, which I love, is you talking about advice, because especially in the writing world, but I'll go to the business world, I'll go to life in general, I'll go to pretty much anything, pretty much every piece of advice you've gotten in your life is garbage.
Yeah.
Because it's like taking a Volvo manual and trying to build a Chevy Z28. We're two different models, and you're trying to tell me how to put something together that doesn't fit. Yeah. So we've become a species that loves giving advice and loves going out there and pontificating about how this is, you can tell me, how to build a log cabin. You can tell me how to plant Bermuda grass, because that's largely the same. But once I entered the equation, and we're talking about me and my writing and my art, or me as a business person, or me as a person in general, advice becomes garbage because it just doesn't work. What worked for you, almost without exception, is not going to work for me. And I find that to be true with, because I am open-minded. And did I say You
did.
See, nobody.
Yeah, he did. Yes, he did, Bill.
I caught myself. So
it went right past me.
I'm trusting you guys, and you're letting me down.
It's all part of your charming Southern patois.
I reckon so.
I don't even hear it.
So that would be my first thing here, would be, almost all advice is garbage. And I thought about, the second one is I thought about writing, a memoir. And
you said it again.
Did I?
You don't want us calling you out on this, Joe. Yeah.
No, we'll take 30 minutes.
It's going to interrupt your flow.
Anyway, so I'm going to change it to you guys. So my childhood, as I view it now, is not the childhood I lived. It's the childhood seen through the lens of adulthood.
Yeah.
And that view of childhood changes every day. So the person I was and the thoughts I had back then, I can't revisit. So really, our own vision of our own childhood is completely fictional,
Mm-hmm.
except for the broad strokes. I mean, I knew where I grew up. I knew
Yeah.
where who my parents were, but a lot of that stuff was fabricated, and it's just part of the movie that I play over and over in my head.
Yeah.
So when you read any memoir, any autobiography, any biography,
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to take it with a grain of salt and realize that probably 8/10 of it is pure fabrication, or at least partially fabricated.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember what I had for lunch last week, much less what I thought as a 12-year-old boy. I don't know that I had any grand ideas when I was 14, 15 years old. I know I had a few things that I liked, but if I were to sit down like you and I would have the same problem trying to put it in a memoir.
Yeah.
I would write it, come back and read it, and I say, I don't even know if that's true. That might be complete fiction. So we might write the fictional, version of Joe.
I came up with a solution for that because I ran into the same sort of esoteric question as I was trying to, engage in this act of like deeply telling the truth. It's like, well, what is the truth? It gets real nebulous down there in the nether regions. And so what I did was I said, I'm going to tell the emotional truth. I'm going to tell the part that is emotionally has been true for me my whole life. And if it's not factually true, I gave myself grace because exactly what you said. It's like, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm an adult looking back on childhood experiences.
And add to that, what's true today may not be true tomorrow.
Right. Yeah.
So by the time we're like a computer, the minute you ship it out the door, it's obsolete, and we're on to 2.0 or whatever the next version is. It's very. I go back because I've only been on Substack 7 months, and I go read some of the stuff I wrote. And I'm like, what the hell were you thinking that day? It's cool. I like it, but what were you thinking that day? And it's odd. So let me let Bill get his intro.
Sure.
We're already taking off.
Yeah, no worries. I appreciate what Manny's saying, and I would love to jump in there. So for those that don't know me yet, my name is Bill Kirst. My Substack is called Everward, Everward. I've been on Substack over a year. And Manny, I appreciate the fact that you mentioned so much of what we were taught growing up, and you too, Joe, right? We were taught how to write this way, we were taught how to write that way. And
Yeah.
I think back to the first time I rebelled against that model. And it was the essay that I wrote for my college admissions. And I remember every single person telling me, this is not the essay. This is not the one you want to write. You're not going to get into this school. I don't want to hear you come crying when you don't get in because of this. And I chose not to listen to any of their advice.
Yeah.
And I got in. And I found that essay this year, 30 years later. I was moving between houses.
Amazing.
And I found that essay. And it happened to coincide with the 25th reunion or homecoming of my college. And I went back to the East Coast and I brought that essay, the physical copy of the essay with me. I was in my hotel room and I decided to read it aloud for the first time in 30 years. And I recorded myself reading it. I put it on YouTube. And it was really emotional for several reasons, not just the content and the topic, but because that was the first time I rebelled against the system.
Yeah.
And it was that essay that got me into the college I wanted to go to. And as a result, changed the rest of the trajectory of my life. So I think back to these moments when we have this sort of inner flame, right? That we know we do not want to douse. And Joe and I have talked about this a few times, but my approach now as a published author and poet who just has to write. Like, it's like breathing for me. I have to write.
Yeah. Yeah.
I write as if no one's going to read it. And it
Yeah.
is the freest thing. It is
Yeah.
hard to say. And I know people who are listening and watch this maybe afterwards might be like, whoa, how do you do that? Because we're always thinking about wanting our stuff to be read, right? The
Yeah.
legacy that comes with this. Totally understand that. But there's a freedom in just letting it go. And when you do let it go, I think it soars in a different way. I think it reaches new heights and it finds new people. Obviously, as you said in a 322-page memoir, right? You had to let go of some of that. So I
So
appreciate
much.
you kind of leading off with that. Yeah.
Yeah. I had to let go of everything, including shit I didn't realize I was thinking.
Yeah.
But like, can I just speak to that freedom? Because that's exactly how I write now. I write in my professional world all the time. I'm a copywriter. I'm a marketer. I write, I don't know how much every day, but a few pages every day for work, you know. And then I go into my notes app and I feel like almost like I'm a deviant who gets through his full day, and then he takes off the like normalcy suit, and I'm just like trying to like paint with words and images and rhythms, and I use Chat GPT a lot, not to help me write, but just to take my finished writing and say, okay, evaluate this. Just tell me what you
Mm.
think. And I let it bounce back and forth with me. And it will always say things like, um, so I'm also a musician and I deliberately think in terms of rhythm. I think in terms of mouthfeel. I think in terms of like painting. I was also trained as an artist all my young life. And so all these things come into these tiny, short little things that I'm only sharing with like 44 people on Substack, you know? And I don't even care, by the way. Like, it's fine. Whoever's supposed to find it will. It's just this place where, like, and by the way, the 44, 45 people or whatever, they've all been magnetized to it. And
Yes.
so, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, so Chat GPT says, well, it looks like you just sort of broke your stanza rhythm here. I was like, that's what you think. I labored over that choice because
That's
I
right.
wanted it to be syncopated there. I
Mhm.
wanted to force you to sort of breathe here, all of these kind of things. And I just like, just as a sort of like a recognition of what you just said, Bill, I just want to say, uh, I am deliberately trying to, I don't want to go too far into it, but everything's a balancing act with this version of creativity for me. But I'm
Mm.
deliberately trying to ignore the rules.
Yeah.
I'm trying, and this is grandiose. I'm trying to be Coltrane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm trying. I feel like hopefully I've internalized language enough that I can break the rules now. I don't care about adhering to any of those ideas. What I care about is that when you read whatever I wrote, it just slaps you or coddles you or it impacts you in some way. Like,
Yeah.
that's all I care about with it, you know. I got plenty of formalized professional writing, and you know, by the end of the month, I'll have like 100 more pages. So this thing here, and Joe, that's what drew me to you in the first place, man. There's
Yeah.
just so much. Just to me, it feels like beauty for the sake of beauty in what you write. I don't know if that's your where your head is at, but it's like there's a way that you're celebrating the way language can create stuff that I haven't come across other people yet who have that same thing.
I love painting with words, and we
Yeah,
talked
yeah,
we discussed this yesterday in another live. Another live is that the things I'm writing about can't be written about.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I totally get
So
that.
I'm completely failing every day
Yeah,
to say what I want to say, but
yeah,
I'm having the best time in the world trying to do it because
yeah,
I keep reaching back to that well, and I decided, and if you go back through my stack and reading the beginning where I was obeying the rules and
mm,
it's a different person because I decided one day, you know what?
Yeah.
If I'm gonna walk out on the mound, I'm gonna throw fastballs all day long.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna hurl it as hard
That's
and
right.
fast, and if it hurts, it hurts. And even today, I write things, and I know because I can watch my. Everybody says they don't watch their counter. Everybody watches their counter. I know how many people subscribe and how many people unsubscribe to me every day. So I know exactly how many people I bothered or upset or pissed off that day.
Yeah.
And by the end of the day, I know how many people are like, okay, well, maybe he got a point. And I've even watched a couple that I knew they'd unsubscribed and they subscribed again because I guess they got over whatever thing they did. But that's part of it is getting out there and like you say, to say I have a rule but I don't obey the rules in this itself a rule.
Yes.
And so I'm having to. I've described this in several lives. I get there, I put my head back on the couch, and I start typing, and I just let it where it goes, where it wants to go. And I'm aware that I can't help but be influenced by the people that I've read, like Hyacinth and Sanford and Baldwin, and even some of the older, Mark Twain. So I'm aware that I'm influenced by them and I can't get away from that influence. So I might as well use that influence.
Absolutely.
To my advantage. And one day I'll write an entire story about grief in the voice of Huckleberry Finn. Why not? You might as well have some fun with it while you're doing it. It's not an exact thing. Art has never been an exact thing. I despise the notion that you can go to school to get the mechanics of it right. And I believe you can actually formulate a pattern. A lot of authors do it where A plus B plus C equals I'm going to sell another book. But that's not what I want to do. I have no connection to the characters. I have no connection to the art. And the only person I really, 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 truly have a deep, deep, deep 100% connection with is myself. And that's the only one I can write with.
Yeah.
And I think I'm like most other people. When I read a book, if I read a John Sanford book, I become the character. And I'm not too proud to say I usually see myself in the hero's role. I always want to be the good cop, or I want to be the good guy in the story. Most of the time, I'll break that sometime, but which is why Hyacinth's so fun. Because you ever read Carl Hyacinth?
Not me.
I haven't.
Okay, you got to read it. There's a character in there called Skink. He's the former governor of Florida, and one day he just gets fed up with politics and he walks out in the swamp and he never comes back and he ends up with a glass eye and he went completely feral. He lives in the Keys. He lives out in the woods, and this is what I want to be. This is who I want to be. I just want to check out of reality, and so we'll get to my stuff because we could talk about writing all day, and I think there's plenty of people out there talking about it. We'll get back onto it, I'm sure, between this, and we'll run over like we always do. But I took some of my writing and took some of I think the great quotes are, I'm giving myself credit, some of my greater quotes. You can get a book of this for $19.95, Joe's greatest. But I took some of the good, what I thought were relevant quotes from my writing. And I'll ask y'all the questions and I'll take some of them. But the first one's on domestication, because I think that's a big one in society, especially in a male role. One of them I wrote about in The Greatest Heresy was about healing meaning harmless, because they're not the same thing. Being healed is not being harmless. And I'll ask you guys what's your opinion on that, because really my idea there was that the sanest response available in an impossible condition is not safe. the inability to thrive sometimes is the sanest response to a situation.
Mm-hmm.
The inability to be healed is the sanest response to it. So when did we as a society decide that being healed, quote unquote, means being harmless to everybody around us? Because I don't think that's true.
Manny, you want to start?
Yeah, fuck yeah, I want to start. The sanitization of what I'm just going to speak from the male perspective here. The sanitization of and the neat, tidy packaging of what it means to be a man. That's, I think, the question. And I think it started, I would say it started right around the time of Est, right around the time of the first sort of organized self-help places that, like when you could go pay money to go somewhere for a week and get, talked to and yelled at and ritually treated in this way or that by someone who has appointed themselves as a teacher. There's an interesting sort of parallel specifically with the beginning of the self-help movement, the formalized self-help movement. I'm not talking about Norman Vincent Peale. I'm not talking about like How to Win Friends and Influence People. Those were the progenitors. Those were the precursors to it. It really kind of kicked in the early 60s. It really kind of kicked into like, oh, there's a business here. And here's the part people don't know. This is really, to me, fascinatingly morbid. Organizations like Est, organizations like, what was the other big one? Well, whatever it was, were actually funded by corporations because they needed a certain kind of person to move into their C-suite roles. And so there was this sort of weird dichotomy where on the one hand, you have to be intelligent and self-actualized, but on the other hand, you kind of have to have your edges, sanded down smooth so you're not like gutting people in the conference room in like a fit of, like unhinged masculinity. But the short answer, Joe, is it's business. And I'm in marketing, man. It's what I do in my day job. And I know marketing when I see it. And all of that stuff has a deliberate marketing component to it. So fast forward to the last 20 years, there has also been a sort of well-marketed, but a pushback movement to that. Things like Sterling Men's Group. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It is exactly what you'd think it is. It's like reclaim your primal power kind of a thing. But I tend to think at the macro level that because humanity does better on whole, not the outliers, not individually, but as a group, humanity does better on the whole when people are interdependent and there is sufficient social complexity. This is what we seem to need to move forward as a collective. The individuals get lost in that a lot. Like, especially, let's say that you're in your 50s and you still have like 1,200 testosterone count or something like that. You're not going to fit in very well. But the whole group the arc of the entire group is better when we all sort of like become more homogenous. So
I understand what you're saying, and this is touching on something else we discussed in a previous live. Was we're not evolved to live in the societies that we live in right now, and and likely we never will be. We're not meant to live in groups of millions and hundreds of thousands because it just doesn't work. And we've congregated now. We've created this society and this economy that is completely it's completely at opposites with what we are as people. We evolved through millions of years, thousands of years, to live in small groups in our local tribes and to manage and govern those. And now we're trying to do it. Now there's some idea that we can do it as a global thing, which is a fantasy beyond any utopian novel out there.
Yeah.
We can't even do it in our country because our cultures and our upbringings are so disparate and so different. And our needs are so different. Coming from the South and moving to the North was a huge eye opener for me. Because as a Southerner, I had a view of Chicagoans and how Chicago, and then I got up here and realized it's a different planet. It's not a different city. This is a different existence from anything I'd ever gotten used to. And when I was in the military and I lived in Bahrain and I lived in Sicily, you realize how different this is. And again, that circles back to the notion of your self-help. How can you write a self-help book and throw it out there in the market and say, this is going to solve all your problems?
Right.
You don't even know who I am. You don't even know what my problems are. And I've had that. I could sum that up in one thing when my father died. Yeah. Somebody walked up to me at the funeral and they said, I know how you feel. And I turned around and I said, no, the hell you don't. What a stupid thing to say to somebody. I know you mean well, but you don't know how I feel.
Yeah.
Just like I wouldn't know how you felt if a parent died. You don't know what to say. Nobody knows what to say at that moment. So just say, I'm sorry, Joe. I'd rather you just say I'm here for you. Call me if you need something, but don't say something like that.
Right.
And
just be honest and tell me I got something on my shirt.
Yeah. And you're very right. The self-help, and I've roasted it on my humor part of my blog many times to the chagrin of a lot of people. It's a business.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's just what it is. It's a business. And their motivation is not to heal you.
No, definitely not.
If they healed you, they would
You'd
produce
stop
one
buying
book
the
and we'd all be done. Yeah.
That's right.
So we need to be a little bit screwed up.
Yeah.
And if you read them, there's enough language in there so you realize after you're reading chapter 1, 2, and 3, right, that, hey, dude, I'm still pretty screwed up out here. I need to get the addendum to this and go to their seminar.
I'm not sure I can do this without Tony Robbins' help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm never going to get there if I don't walk through fire.
That's right.
If I don't do the fire walk, I'm never going to heal.
Yeah.
And so, all right, Bill, I'll ask you one.
Sure.
We just talked about masculinity, and so from After the Burning, which is one I just wrote. When the murderer and the victim share the same skin, what becomes redemption?
When they share the same skin, what becomes redemption? So what's interesting about that, if I recall reading about it, what I thought was sharing.
Let me phrase it in this: what does it mean to be a man after you've demolished those stories about what you've inherited about being a man, about manhood and masculinity?
Well, I think what it means is you get to write the story again. And there's a bit of, to your point around healing and harmless, I actually think there's a greater courage, there's a greater sense of bravery when you literally tear everything down to the studs and you say, you know what, I got to do this totally anew. I got to figure out what makes me me, and I got to take the risk of doing this, disrupting everybody that relies upon me. So that I can sleep at night, so that I can wake up the next morning, so that I can be at peace with myself. But understand that very choice is going to be regarded as not peaceful. It's going to be regarded as you said, the opposite of harmless. And I think, to your point, Manny, around if we're going to do the right healing, it requires first and foremost forgiving of self.
Yeah.
And no book, you don't need to buy a book to do that. You just need to spend a lot of time, as you said, Joe, looking at those things and reacquainting with the 12-year-old or 14-year-old or 15-year-old in you, right? And getting to a place where you can forgive and understanding if that's done the right way, the facade will collapse. Like, collapse is not a bad thing, in my opinion. But you got to be willing to either walk away from everything that's at your feet after the collapse happens, or pick up parts of those that you know to be true to you and rebuild. And I wonder if that is not the hardest thing for man to do, because the patterns won't persist, and the systems that we all, do on ramps to and off ramps from, you'll see them differently. And you might unsubscribe. You might literally be like, I'm not doing this anymore. And that in itself is pretty risky. But it can also be very rewarding.
Yeah. But anything you write is going to be risky. And
Mhm.
and what I've learned is, because I'm not one of these that believes in radical self-love. I just don't see it. I don't think such a thing exists. And if it does exist, then it doesn't do us any good, because that takes us down a road we don't want to go. And I figured the best I can do is love myself like I love my children. And that's to stand in front of the mirror sometimes and say, dude, you are screwed up today. I still love you, but you got to get your shit on straight. And you messed up. That doesn't mean I don't care about you. That doesn't mean I'm not going to take care of you. That doesn't mean I don't love you. It just means go fix what you screwed up.
Yeah.
And that leads us to one of my other ones from that same one, the difference between accountability and self-flagellation. Because when you're writing about that, a lot of people are going to say, man, all this dude talks about is beating himself up. Well, you know what? I screw up every day. I make a mistake every day. And I like recognizing those mistakes, because that makes me a better person. And if I write them down and I share them, it's a little bit of me holding myself accountable and saying, hey, dude,
Yeah.
you messed up, and you need to go fix this. So, yeah, when you throw it out there, let's just say, no matter what you write, it's going to be risky. I write a love poem, people unsubscribe. I write a poem about this, people unsubscribe. I write about a 69 Nova, and somebody's going to unsubscribe. Somebody's going to unsubscribe because they don't like you. Every time you write something, somebody is going to unsubscribe. So I think, going back to what we talked about earlier, man, it was, I write because I love writing. And if you love reading what I write, then good on you, and I love you for it. But if it upsets you, I don't know how to do anything else.
Yeah.
And I can't perform something else. So if you want to read the directions, if you want to read something black and white and it's the same every day, go read the manual to your remote control on your TV.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to come out there swinging every day with whatever's in this noodle that day. And as we go through this live, you'll figure it out. That changes every 33 seconds.
Yeah. Well, the thing I think, which is interesting to note, what, to your point, Manny, around what I call the tractor beam, right? You said magnetized before, right? The tractor beam that pulled me toward Joe's writing in the first place was, this is how I describe it. It gave me room to breathe.
Yeah.
Right. So what Joe, what you might say is that your mind changes every 30 seconds. Okay. To me, when I read your writing, I have room to breathe. Right. To me, that's important in my life right now, is to be able to sort of have the space and the grace, in an otherwise constricted world. And so if that does the opposite for people, you're right. You don't necessarily want them hanging out there, because you wouldn't want them feeling constricted or suffocated or narrowed. And that's an individual thing for each person. But for me, that's my measure, is like, does it give me room to breathe? Do I feel like I can breathe easier? That's my litmus test with a lot of reading and writing. And to your point, Manny, that's also why we play with words and diction and voice. And
Yeah.
when I finish reading stuff, I read it aloud because I want the space. Right?
Yeah.
I want the ellipsis. I want people to pause um and feel something in between the letters. And that, to me, I mean, honestly, Joe, like, that's, maybe it's because we both share some similar, upbringings, or the military or whatnot, but that was it for me. I was like, wow, I have room to breathe here.
I'm gonna be cremated, but if I had a tombstone, one of my favorite things I've ever written was, "I lived as a comma and I'll die as an ellipsis." I love that. I love that.
That's a good one. That's good.
That's perfect. I appreciate that, because going to that piece after the burning, I wrote that after reading somebody else, and they were talking about forgiveness and self-forgiveness, and then they dive into radical forgiveness, because if it's not, forgiveness is not good enough, we got to get into radical forgiveness, right? Because radical makes it even better. And
more marketing, buddy, more marketing.
Yeah.
But I'm reading it, and I said, and I'm not trying to ping somebody else. I'm just reading this and talking to myself. When does forgiveness actually become conflict avoidance? Because it's
right away.
yeah,
right away.
Because we're sitting there saying, I forgive you, dude. No, what you're doing is you're trying not to deal with the situation.
Yeah.
And
you're rushing towards some juvenile form of premature enlightenment.
Yeah.
So
it's you got to be careful. There's extremes on everything, right? So you still got to deal with the issue. And forgiveness doesn't mean I can walk into the room and punch my wife in the mouth and then walk out and say, I forgive myself, and we're done with it. And it doesn't mean that we can create a sin or transgression against ourselves and walk into a room and say, I forgive you, without dealing with the repercussions of that.
Yeah.
Because something in us holds that there. And will not, it won't let you forgive it until you've dealt with it.
Yeah,
that's right.
And you may think it has, and you may think radical forgiveness, and going and baptizing yourself in the swimming pool might help you. It ain't. I don't know many things, but I know it's going to come back to haunt you, because I've had to dig up some skeletons in my closet that are 10, 15 years old, and sit them down in a chair and say, all right, we're going to have a talk, and we're going to figure this out. Then I can go and forgive myself.
That's why I practice radical self-deception. It's way easier. It's so much easier.
That might be a better policy.
Yeah. Highly recommend. Hey, I just wanted to, I wanted to get one thought out, because I do have to get going pretty soon, but I don't know how relevant this is, but it's something that's tugging at me to say. For me, writing scratches the itch that in decades of being a visual artist, I never was able to scratch. It's really strange. And so I got really good at drawing in particular. And I always had this sort of self-imposed idea that I should be able to do photorealism. And photorealism is very, very difficult, as you can imagine, especially with like pencils or pens. And so even as I created these things that other people really got a lot out of, I never felt that sing at the end of, for me, at the end of writing, and like most of the stuff on my Substack it's maybe 7 or 8 stanzas. It's all very, very short. I don't even publish it anymore. I just put it as a note now. Like, I don't care about any of that stuff. I just want to do this thing that finally scratches this itch that I've been trying to scratch for decades. And, Joe, a lot of what you've been doing here today on this call is sort of outlining the reality that if we're not careful, everything tends to go into some sort of extreme version of itself. And that's true. That is true. I think that is human nature. And I also think it's because to get really, really out there and cosmic, each of us is a little insecure, subjective kind of unit of creativity, and one of the things that I really like to play with mentally and sometimes in writing too is creativity is amoral. It's not good or bad. It's just a thrust. It's just the thing that keeps everything going. And so we can slip into too much of anything, right? Because we're just this creative impulse that moves forward. I like thinking of it as like just sort of creating from this space where I'm almost certainly going to go too far at one moment or another. I'm almost certainly going to lose that sort of like that holy balance where I'm just in the zone. The Ouroboros is almost certainly going to eat its tail with every single thing that I write. At some point, it's going to do that. But at the same time, and I don't know, for our whole conversation here, I've been wanting to say that I feel like writing is one of the only places left where you can create like that. I could be wrong. Maybe it's just my subjective experience as a unit of creativity who's just moving on his own arc. But it just seems like there's something so different to expressing the muse through writing from anything else I've ever tried. And maybe it's just me, maybe it's just the three of us, maybe it's just the little community on Substack, but for me, it's like I can breathe again when I do it. Whereas with everything else I've tried, I've been a professional musician, I've been a professional artist, um, never made much money at either, but always felt like this is cool, but it's not touching the thing I'm trying to touch. And this does that. And I almost don't care about anything. You know what I mean? In terms of just like what writing is about for me, I, I certainly don't care about rules. I certainly don't care about. In fact, I said one time, all I'm concerned with is that when you read my stuff, you realize you're dealing with something consequential. I don't care if you like it. I don't care if you hate it. I just want to be able to convey that there's a mind at work here. And you definitely have that, Joe. Like when I read your stuff, it's definitely like there's a mind at work. And frankly, Substack is full of people who are sort of write like well rehearsed automatons. Yeah, it all looks good on the surface, but there's nothing underneath. There's nothing really grabbing me, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I don't I don't subscribe to that type of writing, and I think everybody should write what they want to. So I don't want to. I'm not backpedaling. I'm just saying 60% of Substack is how to make money on Substack. And let's just be real. If you go on Medium, it's 90% how to make money on Medium. And this is the formula I used to make $80,000 last year on Medium.
Yeah.
And basically, it's a carbon copy of the last person. They
Yeah.
promise you a result that never comes
Mhm.
unless you copy what they're doing and you become the next guy, the next guru on how to write things.
Yeah.
The reason behind it and the reason I have done it the way I have, again, is like you say, it's excuse me, it's one of the few places on this earth that I can break all the rules
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
create what I want to. Because once I walk outside this door, there's speed limits and there's rules, and I can't go stand in front of a corporate meeting and say some of the things I think every day.
Right.
And I could, but I would never be invited back, and I would probably be in some form of detention by the end of the day. But here, in one form or the other, I can say whatever I want to. I can make my own rules. I can write whatever I want to write. If I'm in a good mood, I can write my good mood. If I'm pissed off, I can write that I'm pissed off.
Yeah.
And there's a freedom and a liberation in that.
Yeah.
So when and I can't speak for everybody else. We'll go back to the beginning. I can't solve anybody else's problems. I can't tell you how to write. I can just tell you I don't know how to write something that I'm not feeling. I don't know how to write something that's not pushing its way out of me.
Yeah.
And I've tried,
Mm-hmm.
I sat down and tried to write just so I could say I did. I tried to sit down and write this self-help book one time. I wrote the whole thing, and I sat there and I read it, and I it's my work, and I got to the end. I said, "This is the hottest bunch of garbage I've ever read in my entire life. I don't I don't want this associated with my name, and we'll use this for toilet paper and move on down the road." So one of the wars on Substack, though, is that monetization. It always comes up, right? Because
Yeah.
the one form of acknowledgement we have, or one of the greatest forms of acknowledgement we have in our society, is being paid.
Yeah.
And we all want to write all the time. I would love to write constantly and be paid for it, and be able to make my house payment off of it, and a car payment. Excuse me. I'm aware that at this point that's probably not going to happen. Just because, unless I write the world's next bestseller, but it would have to be about me. It would have to be, and I'm almost terrified that I'd have to rob a bank or something in order to make it come out real, because I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to fake my way through it. So
Well, all you got to do is just buy my course.
yeah, sure. I think Bill lost his internet. He'll come back.
Yeah.
But let's go back to another one. Let me pull one of these other ones, because we got off that one. There's a couple of them I wanted to get to.
I'm gonna have to go in a couple of minutes.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, but invite me back.
That's all right. I'll invite you back. We'll
Yeah.
get another one in there. Bill will pop back in here a minute.
Yeah.
I'll ask you this last one, and I'll let you go. I wrote one. There are no miracles left in this room, and the quote is, "I'm still here. I'm just not where I was." And to me, that day, it was about quitting the person I was, and quitting trying to be that person, and telling everybody around that Joe's still here, Joe's still around. He's just not the Joe you knew, and I'm allowed to do that. And I should have done it a long time ago, but I was so busy performing that version of Joe that everybody knew and everybody loved, that I was scared to move on. And I think we all get to that, especially as men, right? We get in this performance, and the man that we are, that people fall in love with, we're so scared to move on from that role and say, this doesn't serve me anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we get into a lot of our problems in a especially in the masculine world. I obviously can't speak for women, but that performance of not just masculinity, but that performance of the man that my mother knows, or my friends know, or my wife knows, or my kids know, and being able to walk up to them and say, I'm still here. I'm just not him anymore. And that's pretty. It's pretty heady when you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's been my whole life, man. Just that over and over and over again, to the point where I'm just careful not to judge people anymore, because I'm gonna shed my skin again, and I may come out, just like the person I last judged. But yeah, it's at the same time absolutely inevitable, and yet completely baffling to the people around us. It's really weird. Anyway, I got to get going.
Yeah, Manny, I appreciate you being on, and I appreciate you. We'll invite you back again here in the future and do this again, because I like having people come back. We have some great discussions.
Yeah, this was one. So
I appreciate everything, and glad to finally meet you.
Likewise. Thank you, Bill. All right, guys. See ya.
All right. And for me, I'll tell everybody I appreciate everybody coming and everybody showing up and being part of this. I have a lot of fun with these. I aim to get some more guys on, and even some of you ladies here in the future. I'm going to pay back the ladies that got me into a conversation yesterday. That'll be one of my first things, is to get them so they have a chance at retribution for what I did to their live yesterday. And I think what I'm going to start doing is sharing the notes on these, so you guys can read some of the questions and get some of the backstory on where I come up with some of my stuff, because I've had that question, where do you come up with things, and how do you come up with things? And the vast majority, I'll tell you, I get up every morning and I go drive, and I have to go run errands, and I get up before everybody else. I'm up at probably 4:00 in the morning, and I'll run get coffee or do a couple of things. And sometimes it's a song, and sometimes it's just a random thought or something. It's something I dreamed about, but then I come back and I sit down and I write, and I'm starting to get back in the role of writing more often. I was out of it for a couple of weeks. I had a very sick child, and I had to deal with that and a couple other things that happened. But I think I will. I'll share these notes going forward, because the participants have asked for them. They're interesting. The other thing is, I guess I should pitch that my poetry books are out there on Amazon now, so go grab them. And maybe if enough of you do it, I can write full time. And scheduled next month will be the first novel, called The Last Bastard Saint. It was a piece I wrote earlier this year. I extended that into a book and really made it personal. I'm not going to tell you about it, because I changed it wholesale from what the writing was on Substack. But it's fun, and it's going to be a great read. It's got the religious trauma. It's got it's me. It's 100% me, but me getting to play in the fictional world. So I'm very excited for that. It'll be my first novel. I've got poetry out. We'll be able to. I don't know if I'm gonna do pre-order MJ. I'll think about that. I'm really not a fan of Amazon, because Amazon has been very tough. So I'm looking at alternates. I just got invited onto another show to discuss alternative means of publishing, rather than going through Amazon or going to the big houses. And we'll see where that goes. That's supposed to be on the first part of November. I think November 7th. And that's supposed to be a big event. But I'm very excited about this novel. I love my poetry. As I say all the time, I got on Substack, had no idea that I would ever get involved in poetry, and no love for poetry at the time. And I got on here and found some poets that I loved and started writing poetry. And the more I got into it, the more fun I had with it. And it's led me down a road that has done nothing but enhance and made writing more enjoyable. So I appreciate everybody showing up and being a part of this. I really appreciate everybody that reads and comments. It's hard for me to talk about without getting emotional about it, so I'm not going to get into it. But it is one of those things I think everybody needs to know, that I get up every morning, and one of the things I'm most grateful for is the comments and the likes, and the fact that people are taking time out of their busy lives to sit there and digest something that I put on to a screen or I put onto a page, and I can't speak to that really without getting emotional about it. I'm a couple thousand subscribers in now and several thousand followers, which is about 1,999 more than I thought I would ever have. I was pretty much assured that I would have my mother and a couple others, but it's been a great ride. And these roundtables are going to keep up. The I Am thing is going to keep up. We've got another thing coming out that I keep hinting about. We're going to roll that out in the next couple of weeks. And that's for you guys. That's not for me. That's for authors. One of the things I'm really pushing here lately is supporting indie authors and people that are struggling to get their books out there. The journal that's going around the world, that will be sent out next week to the first person. And if you haven't heard of that idea or read that, you should go read about that. I got a journal. I put my first handwritten poem in there. I'm sending it to another poet. They're going to put their poem on, and it'll be forwarded all the way around the world. And my idea is to have this go for 8 months to a year, being forwarded from person to person, filled with disparate and various poets and their voices, and then sent back here. It'll be curated and donated to some institution that will preserve it, because this is a voice of people that deserve to be recognized and people that deserve to have their writing preserved for posterity. And that's not just me. That's a lot of the guys and gals out here that are writing. A lot of you write brilliant stuff, and I'm remiss from telling you that as often as I should, but it's my attempt to get some recognition for all those. And I know you are, MJ. I know you're working on yours. I still hadn't seen anything that I requested on the songs. You keep doing Bob Dylan and stuff, but hadn't seen any of my genre over there. You know, I played a little bit in there, but I'm waiting for some Motley Crue. I'm waiting for some 80s hair bands to show up. So don't disappoint me. I'm ready to see some different stuff on there that I can play with. So I appreciate everybody, and we'll do this again next week. There's going to be 4 of us next week, and I look forward to seeing you there. And I appreciate everybody, and I hope you have a great rest of your week and a phenomenal weekend. Take care, everybody.